ladies and gents, hope you're well, hope you had an amazing week. This week I'm back with Chris. We're talking about ads, social media, advertising. How do we get you seen by your ideal client so they can then build trust with you, so then they can pay you some money. That's the goal, that's the plan. This is why we do marketing, to lead into sales so you can grow your business, even though we're in this challenging or interesting economic time, depending on your mindset, remember. And yeah, I'm going to hand over to Chris to explain a little bit more about what he does. But thank you so much for coming back, and I'll see you in just a moment.
So yeah, I'm Chris from Chris London Online. We're a social media marketing agency based in Nottingham. We help clients with outsourced social media management. So whether that's page management, so the content creation, the graphics, the sort of day-to-day posting, or ads management across the main social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We work with clients from small sole traders right the way up to large corporate organizations. We've run campaigns where we've reached 100 million people in 7 days. We also run very small campaigns for small sole trader businesses. So whatever the size of business, whatever the size of budget, we help all and everybody in between. But predominantly outsourced page management. We do a bit of coaching, and we do ads management as well. It's predominantly a done-for-you service.
Fantastic. Thank you ever so much for the time and the energy and all of the exciting value we're going to be adding today, hopefully. I think we'll start, if it's right with you, with why ads are scary, right? Because I think so many people, when we talk about this with video, we talk about this when people are starting to get started on social media, etc., etc., etc. It's this big, intimidating, it's going to eat my bank account, Chris, help. Right? Mm-hmm. Like that. Why does, I mean, what would you say to someone who is scared of ads, I suppose, or is, I mean, even let's go even basicer, actually. If people were scared of social media or scared of starting with social media, what would you say to them? Or how would you like help them actually understand that it's really needed right now?
Yeah. Okay. So there's no better way of getting out and getting visibility quickly than through paid ads. You can reach, thousands and thousands of people very quickly, a lot more than you can reach organically yourself, without spamming a load of groups and Facebook having a wobbler over the fact that you've spammed a load of groups, which is never any good. But if you want to reach large volumes of people, then ads is the way to go. The thing that scares people, it comes down to a couple of different things. One, they've either been to a marketing agency before, spent a lot of money and had very little return from it, or if anything, I've spoken to people who have spent £3,000 and haven't even had a single lead come from it. We spoke to a client in Austria, and they'd spent £47,000 and only had 10 people to their website. Okay, so that is not what you're looking for. So people have had their fingers burnt. What I always say to people is, one, go with an expert unless you know how to do it yourself, because chucking your money at it yourself and guessing what's going to work and not going to work is a recipe for disaster. And what you want to know when you go with any agency is, where's your proof? What have you done to, warrant the fact that I'm going to give you my hard-earned cash at the end of the day? I've worked hard for it. So what are you going to do? And what have you done in the past to prove those results? Because there's a lot of people who have probably read a few textbooks or watched an online course themselves, and suddenly they're a marketer and they're going to take somebody else's money. We very much go off the basis that I've been there and done it myself. I've got stats to back up that I've spent X amount of money. I've, sold 14,000 online courses myself. So I've been there and I've done it, and I've been at the bottom where every single penny counts. You put £5 a day down, you need to make that money back, So only when you start selling a lot can you then start to play around with it a bit more. When a lot of startup businesses, they haven't got cash to throw at things. And that's what makes them scared. They think, where's my money best invested? Everybody's going to tell you that, there's loads of people who want money from you. There's a business coach telling you that they're going to want that they can help you with the strategy. There's an accountant saying that we can save you money on this. There's social media people saying we can help you grow. So everyone wants a bit of what your hard-earned cash. So people are skeptical of what's going to work, what's not going to work, and they want to know that they're going to get something back.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think it's really important to firstly choose a strategy which you personally believe is going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then follow the data, right? Like that's the key, right? It's firstly, okay, if you don't have any data, it's down to let's try stuff to get data, right? Cool, fantastic. Mm-hmm. But if the person you're talking to, the agency you're talking to, the owner you're talking to, etc., the videographer, whatever, whoever you're talking to about doing content, doing social, doing ads, whatever it may be, whatever you're choosing to do, are they talking about data and results, or are they talking about what I would only describe as fluff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, respectfully, most people don't really mind or care what camera it's filmed on in my context, right? What they want to know is, if we do this, and if we do this, this, and this, and then we do this with it, what's going to happen to the bottom end of the business? Or what leads are going to come, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And, for me, I think that's to an extent where people sometimes get it wrong with ads, because they think, and it kind of comes on to the next question, which I was going to talk about with you, which was like, okay, let's look at what is the difference between boosting a post, because I talk to many small businesses, as I'm sure you do as well, which is like, hey, we boosted this post and it did really well, right? In regards to, and what they refer to when they're talking about well is the vanity metrics tied to that post. E.g., it got likes, shares, comments. Woo, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I then ask them, okay, well, what did it do for the business? Oh, well, we got likes and we got some followers. Is in most cases the only thing they can say. Yeah. But what fundamental, really basic level is the difference between a boosted post and a actual what I wrote down as a real ad?
Yeah, so running it through the paid ads manager, full campaigns really. So I mean, Facebook makes it so easy for people. It just sticks a button right in front of your face, says you can reach 10,000 people for £10, and people go, oh, £10, 10,000 people, that's brilliant. But like you say, it's a vanity metric. It doesn't matter how many people you reach if they're the wrong type of people. You're better off reaching one person, but they're an absolute ideal client and they buy from you, than reaching 10,000 people who have got absolutely, no interest in buying from you. So the thing with boosted posts is you boost a post, you put £5 a day down for a week, for example. Okay, so what happens with any Facebook ads is they go through a learning phase. Okay, so you may put in a bit of targeting and Facebook will show it to different demographics inside that targeting. So let's say, for example, you were targeting males aged 35 to 50 who had an interest in, I don't know, football. Okay, it may show 35 to 40s first of all, and then 40s to 50s, because Facebook's trying to work out what's working. Now, as it goes through this learning phase, it gets more data and it will show it to people who take the action you want them to take. The problem is that when it learns all that information, you'll get inconsistent results, and then suddenly your advert shuts down because you've ran it for 7 days and your 7 days is over. Okay, you can then boost it again, but again, you're probably looking at another 7 days and then it shuts down again. So what you get is sometimes you get some quick wins, but you don't get consistent results. So you'll look for people who are most likely to click the like button just to engage with the advert. Now, we don't want those vanity metrics necessarily. We might do, okay, if that's our goal. But majority of people's goals are, I want to sell more of my service. I want to book appointments. I want people to go to the website and do X, Y, Z. Okay, so running a paid ads through the ads manager means that we've got more control over what's going on. We can also have more control over what's going on with that learning phase as well, because we can run it as a campaign indefinitely. We'll switch it off when we decide we want to switch it off. We'll increase the budgets. We can move things around as well. So as we get through that learning phase and we've got people who are taking the action we want them to take, it will then search out more people that are similar to those people, because it's in Facebook's interest to get you the most sales, because you'll probably put more budget down on it. So then we can increase the budgets. We are fully in control, plus people are doing the objective that we want them to do. And that's the key to it, really. So running it through that. But that's what scares people, because boosting posts is so easy. You just click a button, going in the ads manager, and I've got to go through 3 different sections and all the targeting and who's going to see it and where it's going to be seen and all that load of stuff. It scares people because it all looks a bit foreign to them. They don't, they've never done it before. What if I click the wrong button? Is it suddenly going to wipe my budget out to people who aren't interested?
Yeah, and I think it's that level of overwhelm, right? Like we take with video all the time, but in general, I think it's, oh my god, I could blow a hole in my bank account here, or you know, what does this mean? It's going to be seen by lots of people, blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, really bringing it again back to like basic level again. I mean, that opens up a question, right? Like we've talked a lot about ads, but where does social media, like organic posting, fit then? Because right, if ads are if ads are the way to go, right? If ads are the way to make money when done correctly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then what's the point in posting organically?
Yeah. Okay, that's a good question. So what you need to think about is that social media is used as a research tool, if nothing else. Okay, on the organic side. Okay, so I might hear about a company or need a product, and people tend to go to Facebook, look at their business page as a way of researching them, seeing what they're about, seeing if they're the right fit for them, and looking at some reviews. Okay, so if you imagine you're running some paid ads and I like what I see from the paid ad and I click on your page, but you haven't posted for the last 3 months, suddenly there's a doubt, something's triggered in my mind. I'm thinking, are they even still around? Are they, I don't get a feel for that company. So your organic content is going to build a loyal following of people. You turn up, people see you every day or however often you post, and they buy into you as a person. When you run a paid ad, it's difficult to build up that warmth without running multiple different ads. Okay, so that's okay if you're selling an impulse buy product, something for say £10, because people don't need warming up as much. But if you're selling something, £1,000 coaching course, people are going to do some research into you. So that's where they might hear about your page first through your ad, but then they might follow that page and then they build a fondness towards you, that trust, that know, like, and trust. And that's what warms you up. So never run ads if you've got nothing going on your organic. You have to have your organic sorted first. We remember that ads just amplifies what you've already got. Okay, it's not replacement for something. It's not I'll just switch this ad on and then I never have to post ever again. It's to amplify what you've already. It's like chucking fuel on the fire. Okay, if you just chuck fuel and there's no fire, it's not going to go up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really important metric. And everything me and Chris are discussing here is a fundamental marketing funnel, right? That's what we're discussing, right? At the top, you've got awareness, which could be a paid ad, which could be reels, which could be something that's going to get a new audience to see what you're talking about, right? Arguably, this piece of content today is actually awareness of both of us because we're introducing each other's audiences to each other and vice versa, right? For those who don't know me and Chris's audience, I'm being introduced to them and vice versa for those who don't know Chris here. But also, this is a piece of nurture content, which is the second level of a marketing funnel or value adding stage. We're all talking about the same thing here. The terminology changes upon who you ask. But that's when you build that trust. That's when you're starting to warm up those clients. And at the bottom end, you've got that conversion metric, that thing that gets people into the sales side of your funnel, the sales ability, the ability to then actually say, okay, how can we help you specifically, right? And I mentioned to Chris before the call, at the time of recording, I did a talk this morning, and I was asked about marketing funnels this morning. And the point I want to reiterate here, and it's really important that some people forget about marketing funnels, and it's why I'm reiterating it, is the point of a marketing funnel is actually to get rid of the people you don't want as well. It's not just bring people into the funnel and then they work their way down. There's meant to be actually arguably, and I don't know if you would disagree or agree, Chris, but it's actually you're meant to get rid of more than you gain in some cases because they're meant to fall out the side. Because if they're not the right person for you, you don't want them to get to the bottom and waste your time in a call, right?
Yeah. You end up working with those clients that you don't want to work with, and they're more trouble than they're worth.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's not saying that they don't need marketing. It's saying that me or Chris are not the people to serve them in our solutions to marketing, right? Because I believe in a theory of abundance in respect to everyone has enough work in a plentiful amount if they're willing to work for that work in Crux, right? So they're willing to do their marketing really, really well, especially if you're a marketing agency. Like, a red flag for me personally, if I'm going to a marketing agency and they say they're quiet. Because you need to remember, What's the job of a marketing agency when you hire them? Their job is to showcase you and get you more clients or customers. If they're quiet, what does that say about them? Right?
Yeah.
Are they that good? Can they do what they're claiming?
It's the same as if you weren't, doing video content for yourself, being in the, a videographer who doesn't do video. It doesn't make sense.
It's a bit kind of, okay, there's an alarm bell here. Why? What's going on? But also the passive, I mean, it's the same with Chris. If he didn't do ads and he didn't do social media organically, it's like, well, this is a bit awkward, isn't it, Chris? The thing is that I think the takeaway there, though, is make sure that you stay in your lane. Like, if you're going to say I'm a specialist and I'm an expert, then double down on that, right? Now, we've done and we're doing a very interesting experiment with video at the moment, which basically revolves around short form video and pushing it really hard just to see what happens awareness-wise, right? And I looked at the figures, and I had a podcast yesterday at the time of recording. I think the figures in that podcast, when I quoted them, were about 16,000. Where a day later, they're about 18, just under 18,000, around there, around 19 or so. Which, when you consider 8 days ago, it was like 8 on Brunner Media. That's pretty good, right? Now, this is completely organic, right? What I'm interested to sort of talk to you about a little bit, Chris, and the reason why I want to do this on the podcast is because I think there'll be value there. A strategy that one has used in the past, with me personally with Reels, is putting out Reels, seeing what does well, and then go into the ads manager and you use that Reel as the creative on the ad, right? And then you can use your targeted metrics, etc. I mean, is that a way to soft check whether an ad creative is going to work? And when I say creative for the audience's sake, I mean the video, the image, the text, etc. that you're going to use on the ad. What is your thoughts, opinions on that?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it would depend on the audience and whether they were the same audience that you target organically than you target with paid ads. But generically, yeah, absolutely. If you would, like I mentioned, it's like chucking fuel on a fire. So if something's already working organically, it's a metric to say, okay, well, this has worked, so let's push it. If something's absolutely bombed out and, not worked, it's unlikely we're going to think, okay, well, let's put some money on it. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't mean it wouldn't work, but common sense would say, okay, let's go with the stuff that's working, as long as you know it's working within your audience. If you're targeting females 40 plus, but you've got loads of likes, but they're all males 20 years old, then, those likes don't match up to who we actually want to target. So therefore it doesn't work. So as long as your audiences are the same, technically, yes, it should work across paid and organic.
I think that opens up the lead on question, which I was going to add there, which is like, have you, in your experience, seen a difference between the creative, e.g. the text, the images, the videos, that is used on the front end of the ad, the thing that is shown to the target audience, in regards to the actual conversion or the metric or the usefulness of the ad, so to speak, when you change those? And if so, when should, is there a rule of thumb to follow? Like, for people who are maybe looking to say, okay, let's try some ads ourselves to test it, to see what works, or to see what could potentially work.
So we would always start with a split test. What I mean by split testing is running 2 different ads, but where we only change one thing. Okay, so we made same wording, same audience, but we're showing a creative video, we're showing a creative graphic. That's always the very first split test that we tend to run, because it really does depend, and it does vary. Sometimes video does work best. Sometimes picture works best. We work with, a company that sells fashion accessories. She's not going to stand in front of a video holding up different fashion accessories. For her, carousels work really well. Okay, you can just scroll through the different products that they sell. Off you go. Okay, but when you come to something like, we've worked with clients who had online courses based around anxiety, doing a video where you say, okay, here are my top 5 tips on, you worded better than this, but you're starting to feel anxious. Here's my top 5 tips to calm yourself down a little bit. Okay, that works really well because people think, oh, I'm going to get 5 tips. It warms the audience up. They get that value, that knowledge. You're seen as an expert. We could then retarget these people with a single image, potentially saying, buy my online course, because they've, target people who have watched 50% or more of that video, and you've built trust. Okay, especially when something's slightly more expensive. The more expensive the item, the more trust you need to build. And there's no better way to build trust than through video content. You get to know the person's personality a lot more. You get to sort of see and feel, I suppose, in a way, that person and that business. Right? So, and you can't do that in a picture, because, and like we've alluded to before, people buy from people, and just because, there's loads of different social media people out there. There's loads of videographers. Why should we use yourself or this accountant or that business coach? And it isn't just down to the results. It's down to how you get on with that person as well. And you can portray that through video a lot easier than you can through pictures.
No, I completely agree. And I think it's about also, as you articulate it, it's saying, what's your use case? What's your product? Is your product actually a person or knowledge, or is it a physical item, right? So if I'm selling a physical item, I need to do things slightly differently than if I'm selling knowledge, course, person, personality, brand, etc. But I think that also kind of, to an extent, it goes down to the objective as well that you're trying to achieve with the ad. Why do you want the ad in general, right? But we can't talk about ads without talking about the split between Google and Facebook ad spend, because from what I remember, and I guess we can also throw in, TikTok and other ad platforms as well. I mean, part of, I think, the overwhelm, because we alluded to the fact that people are scared, right? I think another thing that I would personally say that people are overwhelmed by is these options of, oh my God, Chris, there's like 9 platforms that I can have advertising on, and I don't know which one's good for me, and then I've got these targeting metrics and all these, and they just don't do it because they're overwhelmed, right? So fundamentally, firstly, how do we choose a platform, right? Basic level, where do I want to advertise?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, you've got to think to yourself, who is buying from me? How do they consume content? Okay, so, if they don't consume video content, then we're not going to put it on TikTok, because your audience don't consume content in that way. Okay, just like the demographic of Instagram or TikTok users is different to the demographic of Facebook users, or different to, say, LinkedIn users. So I think we ultimately have to think to ourselves, where's our target audience hanging out online when it comes to social media? Everybody uses Google pretty much. Okay, so the demographic isn't quite there, but the difference between then social media and Google is the intent. Okay, so with Google, I have an intent to buy something or to search into something. I've gone on Google specifically to look for an accountant in whatever area I live in, for example. Okay, so I'm looking into that. Now, then I'm brought up with a list of different accountants, and it's just whoever's SEO is best. Number one doesn't necessarily mean you're the best accountant. It just means you've got the best SEO on your website. Google knows that that's powerful, though, and therefore it's more expensive. So you could be paying a couple of pounds for a click, but you could be paying £17 a click. If you're looking at, for a social media marketer, you could be paying £15 to £17 a click. Now, that's quite expensive, but we know that the value of those people is that they are looking for a social media marketer. No one, or very few people, are on Facebook, for example, looking for an accountant, a social media. They tend to be there because they're scrolling through, looking at their friends' pictures, catching up, socializing, seeing what everybody's up to. Okay. Now, the difference on that is that it's a lot cheaper to advertise on that platform. And what we can do is we can warm people up. So our basis of our organic and our paid advertising on social media should be to build a loyal, warm following of people. So when they think to themselves, I need an accountant, they don't think, I'm going to go on Google and search for one and pick a random one. They're going to think, I've seen that accountant on social media. They always give top tips. They know what they're talking about. They offer loads of value. I feel like I know them, even though I don't actually know them. And therefore, I'm going to go and pick that person. Because not everybody's on social media ready to buy at that exact time. And that's what we've got to remember with our ads. These ads can bear fruit later down the line. I was at a networking meeting this morning and we ran some ads for them a year ago, and they paused the ads, and they were telling me today that they're still getting people who seen the ad a year ago and now they're ready to join a different network, and they're joining, and then they're referring other people on as well. So these ads are bearing fruit a year down the line. But that's the difference between Google and social media ads, is that intent to buy. So if we can do Facebook correctly, what we want to do is go after the people who are either aware they've got a problem and don't know how to solve it, or are completely unaware they've even got a problem at all. And if we can make them aware they've got a problem and be the solution to that problem, then they're going to come to us as opposed to go to Google.
And I think it's a really important disparity between the two, right? Because, you know, and the same is true of organic, the same is true whenever you do any content, because all that an ad does is, as Chris said earlier, it gives you a megaphone to what you're doing content-wise, right? But crux in content, right, whether this is video, written, audio, etc., whichever the medium is which you're articulating it as, is first you need to position yourself as the expert, the go-to person for whatever that the service or product that you sell. But then you need to build them to the level of trust so they actually are going to potentially purchase with you. And then you need to wait but stay in their peripheral vision or front of mind through that entire time. So when someone needs a video, I'll use myself as an example, the first I've got to get them to the point of trusting me to the point where, yes, I'm going to do a good job if you hire me to do a video. Great, fantastic, we're there. Right, now my job is to stay around in their peripheral vision for the next 6 to 12 to 24, 28, so on, months, while they are deciding, okay, should I do video? Okay, if I should, how? Okay, when? Okay, to do with what? Okay. And eventually what will happen is they'll go, I don't really know this, but I kind of have a feeling, or I kind of someone's keep telling me, or I keep seeing videos, etc. And we need to be doing that. But then when they think of doing that, the front of mind element comes in and goes, okay, we should talk to Carlton then, because he's positioned as the expert because of the content that I'm getting on regards to visualize, or being how visual I am on social media, for example, right? I think where it gets really interesting is when you start having, because it's also a referral opportunity for you as well, right? Because when you're at that stage with someone in regards to your audience, they're also more likely to say when their friend, colleague, business contact, etc. says, hey, I need a videographer, I need someone to do video, for example, again, using myself, but replace it with whatever you do, they're then more likely to go, hey, you should talk to Colin, right? We've all seen it on Facebook, right? Where the same person's tagged 3 or 4 times. Okay, probably means they're going to win the job, let's be honest, because they've clearly got an established network and a clearly established reputation, and they're clearly established, which in theory means they're going to do a better job than someone just starting out, right? I mean, are you worried? Because I think the social media space, especially social media marketing, is a very noisy, very could be running into issues. I'm choosing my words carefully here, because I think there's a lot of like hype around it, right? I mean, how do you see people validating, yes, Chris is actually good at what he does, right? Yes, like what can people look for? What are some red flags? Like what are the concerns that you would have? Because as I say, the social media landscape as a whole, there's so much options. There's so many people doing it. What are good signs to look for people who are watching this, perhaps, who are like, yeah, actually, I need to do some social media, but I'm really concerned, overwhelmed, and I don't want to get ripped off?
So I would say you need somebody with a proven track record. Okay. We can all go and learn off a YouTube video. Okay. We can all suddenly learn off that and then decide that we're going to go and spend somebody else's cash, you know, running some ads and hoping that they work. Okay. But you want to know that at the end of the day, whether you're putting £5 a day down or £100 a day down, that's your hard-earned cash. And £5 to some people, you know, we've ran budgets for thousands of pounds and we've ran budgets for £5. And you know what? We had a client the other week who spent £30 and she made 304 quid. And you know what? She was more excited than a client who spends thousands of pounds, because you know what? That £5-10 a day that she's spending to her is everything, because she hasn't got this massive business. And actually, if I use my own story from 5 or 6 years ago when I split up with my ex-wife, and I was selling online courses, I needed that £5 a day to get me a return of investment, because if it didn't, I couldn't pay my bills. So it's important. So I always think that's a good point to go to. Where's your track record? Where's your proof? Because the proof's in the pudding, so they say. Show me some examples, and then it's never going to be exactly the same. Okay, we get some clients come to us and we'll go, no, we haven't worked with anybody in that industry before, but we've worked with similar industries before, and this is what they put down, and this is how long it took, and this is roughly how much it costs to get someone to your website. And you can give them a rough idea as to, some industries we can say, yes, we work with people exactly like that, but you've got stories and real life experience of doing it. I've spent £147,000 of my own cash on ads over the years. Okay, that's not including any client budgets. Yeah, how many other people can say that? How many have been willing to put their own cash down? As ask that agency, well, do you put any money down on ads yourself? Do you ever run any ads? Oh no, we don't need to. Well, why not? Why aren't you running ads? If they're the golden ticket or the golden or silver bullet, so to speak, then surely you should trust in using them yourself.
Well, again, it kind of is what I was alluding to earlier about like the marketing agency that's quiet, right? Like, guys, this is what you sell. You should never be quiet, right? Because if you actually are quiet, as in client work, you should spend all of that time generating yourself work. That's what you're hired to do, and by proxy, that's the best example, in my opinion, of actually that you can do it. Because I have sales conversations and people ask me, well, why does video work, Colin? Okay, so I then ask them, well, how many pieces of content have you consumed of mine? And then they suddenly realize they've consumed 6, 7, 9, 10, 15, 20, 30, 100. And maybe they haven't watched the whole video all the time, but they've seen it. They've seen the video. So they've seen me talking about something, seen me, my face, something I've done, seen the brand, they've had a touch point with the brand somewhere. And I say, okay, well, how has that led you to this meeting? Right? How has that changed your own purchasing decisions? Because at this point, and this is what I kind of alluded to earlier when I was talking about, if you have good, strong marketing that really works, you don't need to worry about sales, because you're only going to be talking to really warm, really arguably eager clients that are perfect fits for you. Because, as we said with the sales funnel analogy earlier, the wrong people will fall out, which means they won't actually get to a call. So the people you're going to have a call with are going to be the correct ones in turn. Then it's just working out, okay, how can we specifically help you? Right? It's not like let's work out fundamentals. It's how can we help you specifically? What's your specific challenge? Right? And this is where coaching comes in. This is where one-to-ones come in. This is where pre-production meetings or like pre-campaign meetings or whatever, etc. come in to really understand, okay, for you as a business owner, how are we going to move your business forward with your current A to B objective base? Right? I mean, have you had like anything that you were like, this is going to work, but then it worked really well? And or the other way around, where you were like, okay, we're going to go from point A to point B, and it didn't quite go to plan. And if so, how did you tweak, change, adapt, fix that problem, right? Because we can sit here, because we're both experienced enough and been in business long enough to like know that it doesn't go right all the time, right? I think what actually stands people apart of business is what you do.
Mm-hmm. I think if I use my own example from when I launched, so for people who don't know, years and years ago, I used to be a driving instructor. So I wrote an online course for driving theory. Okay. Now, when I launched that course, okay, I only launched it with an intention of selling about 200 quid's worth a month. Now we've scaled that to about 12 to 15,000 pounds a month over a period of time, because we just started it on a £5 a day budget. But when I first started, one of the mistakes I made was I presumed I knew my audience. I thought, well, I'd been a driving instructor for 5 to 6 years. I teach 17 to 24-year-olds. So that's who I'm targeting with my online course for theory. And I targeted to those people. And don't get me wrong, we were doing about £1,500 worth of sales. But then when I looked at the data, actually it was females 25 to 34 who were buying the course. And I tweaked the target demographic from 17 to 24 to females 25 to 34. And we went from 1.5 to just over £3,000 worth of sales with no extra ad spend, same message, just a tweak in the audience. So what I say to people is don't presume you know what's going to work and what's not going to work. One, split test everything and then look at the data to tell you. Because I can sit there and make educated, I was going to say guesses. They're not guesses, but you get what I mean.
Predictions.
We can use that knowledge that we've got, but just because it works for one business, even in the same industry, doesn't mean it's going to work for another. And if we ran video and picture worked better, doesn't mean picture is going to be working better in 3-4 months' time. So we've still got to go back to it at some point, or it might be not that it was the video content as a whole, it might have been just that piece of video content wasn't quite right. So, like I say, don't presume that you know. Get the data, split test absolutely everything, and constantly be looking. Never be happy with what you've got, because people go, okay, well, I've got an ad now and it's running and I'm making some sales, and it'll go along like this, and then suddenly it will just dive bomb. And it's because it's got creative fatigue. It's just been seen too many times. They need to update it, refresh it. And they don't do that, and then they wonder why it bombs out after a couple of months. So, never presume you've got everything. Always be thinking, okay, well, what can we do? Again, I tweaked the headline on my own course, and we went from, it was a £30 course. We were getting conversions at about £3.50. One sentence change at the top, same picture, same paragraph underneath it, went from £3.50 to about £1.70 or something. So we halved the cost per cost per conversion. So we were getting double the conversions basically for our money, and that's one sentence. Shows how powerful a single sentence or a slightly different image or video can be. But if you don't test these things, you're never going to know. So, and that's the problem that people have, is they just presume they know everything, and it doesn't necessarily. We've ran ads and I've gone, that advert is definitely going to be the best performing advert. I think it looks the best. But that's the point. I think it looks the best. Doesn't mean the rest of the population thinks it's the best. And sometimes it's the one that's, probably not as clean cut. And that's why it stands out and gets the attention it needs on social media. So never presume, always get the data.
And that's, I think, a really important point, because it stays true in organic content as well, which is, it's not actually down to you and your feelings around the content, right? I can sit here and go, I spent my life building this podcast, and me and Chris spent loads of energy and time building it. But if there's no value in it and the audience doesn't tell me that it's valuable, respectfully, no one gives a shit, right? They don't care, because they've got stuff to do. They're busy. They've got other things that they are going to give their attention and time to, and that's cool. And they should, for the record, they should. Right, but that's where the burden of proof comes down to, is can you provide value? And the same is true of ads, by the way, because as we've said in this show, it's a megaphone. So create value first, make sure that it is actually valuable to the audience you're trying to target, and then amplify the message, right? But for those people who really enjoy this conversation and yes, Chris, let's have that conversation about, maybe running some ads, maybe running social media for me, or at least giving me some pointers, or starting that conversation. Where's best for people to reach out to you? Where's people best to connect with you? Reach out and have that kind of conversation.
Yeah, obviously you can find us on social media, surprisingly enough. So Facebook, Chris London Online, LinkedIn, everything, all the social media platforms, Chris London Online, or the chrislondononline.co.uk website, where there's a form that they can fill in. And then, let's have a chat, let's have a call, see if it is right for you, what would work best for you. I'm not going to sit on a call with somebody and preach and try and sell myself. At the end of the day, I'll tell people the options, I'll tell them the benefits of what we can do for them, or whether they want to do it themselves. And, people will make their own minds up then where they want to go with their business journey. But, let's have that chat first of all, and see if we can get you some hints and tips to to just make a few improvements to that social media.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to, and this is kind of the approach I take with sales nowadays as well, which is like, hey, this is what we can do for you. This is how much it costs. Let me know, right? Like this is what we can do. This is how we do it. This is what I think the results will be for you. You know, you let me know if that's something you're interested in. That's something we can help with. But as a final takeaway for someone who's like, yes, okay, Chris, I know I need to be doing ads. Yes, I know I need to be doing social media. What advice would you give them to start?
Either do lots of learning yourself or seek some expert advice. Okay, whether you take that person up to manage, whether that's me, somebody else, whether you take them up on their offer, either way, get some expert advice, if nothing else, because wrong targeting, wrong graphics, or, you know, anything, you can burn a lot of cash. You know, you need to know where your budget's going, who it's going out to. Okay, if you don't get that expert advice and you don't go and learn it all yourself, which will take you ages, you know, you're going to be potentially, more than likely, not getting great results. And I get there's some people that are going to probably hit gold, but it's very few and far between.
Thank you for coming back, ladies and gents. I hope you took value from this episode. If you did, feel free to subscribe so you don't miss next week. We've got some exciting podcast episodes coming. We're still hitting weekly. Super happy with. So hope you've been enjoying the interviews. They've been great fun to facilitate for you. And if you're new to the channel, why not be subscribed so you don't miss next week's? And if you have someone in specific or a specific topic that you're struggling with right now, why not let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for coming back. I'll see you very soon for some brand new exciting content. Take care, have fun, try and enjoy where you can, and I'll see you soon.